Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above with your Sibling Spirit Guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hey Maureen, hey everyone, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian. If you can believe it, on this podcast, we share channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, mythical beings who really exist, and occasionally our ancestors. And today's topic, wow, we've got a trifecta here. Knowing yourself, inspiration, and the law of one. All of them are so brilliant. Brian, where should we begin?
I know all pretty recent topics that have come through, so I think yeah, I'm excited to start sharing some. This one's the first one is just recently, a couple days ago, in fact, February 16th, knowing oneself. So it's they say we come forth now to enhance the knowledge that has come to your kind. Knowledge is free flowing, however, the correct perception is difficult to obtain. To see within yourself and marvel at the glorious wonderment of your physical embodiment and attainment of your spiritual light force. Oh, wait, yeah, to see, anyway, that sounds it's strange, but these are sights humans fails to recognize in others except for those they love. Love can alter one's perception, allowing an enhancement to glow within the interior of your being and the recipient of your affection. These bonds strengthen or weaken with daily use. This is why we encourage regular communication. So this was about, I guess, not channeling, right? So,
Yeah, I skipped one day of channeling and this was just which honestly is very, very rare. I mean, we've been doing this now for we're in our second year and I've it's just been a handful of times I skipped a daily channel, but it makes sense, the daily bonds are strengthened with the bonds are strengthened with daily use. Um, right? I mean, that's true in any relationship.
yeah, anything you do on a daily basis, it's gonna just, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I love how they say that you can't really see well, fail except for when those that you love. So the love can alter your perception, enhancing the glow within your interior of your being. Because love is so transformative, right, brother?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they go on to say, we see the love that you share for others. We encourage you to share that love with your own marvelous divine self. There is more to be attained in a single life than the pursuit of greater knowledge. The knowledge of one's own self is the true nugget of wisdom to be attained by the pursuit of one singular lifetime. I got to repeat that one again. The knowledge of one's own self is the true nugget of wisdom to be attained by the pursuit of one singular lifetime. Wow, what do you think about that?
Yeah. It's it's something I guess, we're all working on, but that is, a lot to unpack there. What do you think of it?
Well, again, it's such a broader perspective because I think when you're busy with your daily lives, or you're focused on your kids or your spouse or, your job and getting these daily channels, it always just pulls it back. It's like, okay. It's knowing yourself, loving yourself, growing in love, expanding in love, hence the title of our podcast. It helps to diminish those pressures that you feel on a daily basis that you think are so important, because they're not, right?
Yep. It's just putting things in perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they continue to say the experience you undergo are ultimately designed to give you an opportunity to discover greater aspects of yourself. Loving oneself has morphed into an unusual, some word I didn't know, which we have rarely seen before. The glorification of oneself through the lens of your media is not what we're discussing. So they go on to bemoan the selfie again, Brian, bemoaning the selfie. I think we covered this in a previous episode, right?
Yeah, it was one of the archangels talked about how he said that you shouldn't be taking selfies all the time. So that's what they go on to say. Uh, you you see the difference in the exasperation of our meaning about you know loving yourself versus the selfie. It says so I guess then they went on with a different example. They said the selfie, we again bemoan the selfie culture as the glorification of the self, but this is not the self of which we discuss. The interior self, which offers many rooms to be discovered to unlock the greater glory of the one. Um, it's similar to the unanticipated joy of discovering a new aspect of yourself. Perhaps a particular experience has tested you when you discovered that you possess the strength you did not realize you had. And these are the moments of self-reflection that we wish to discuss. So, not posting on Snapchat or whatever. So,
I mean, we laugh, but come on. I mean, that is so common.
oh my God, especially with the younger generation, it's insane how many um selfies and oh my God, I just see it all the time. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah. They go on to say for the ultimate reality, there is only the self, there is no other. Therefore, plunging into the depths of one's own particular soul allows for greater unification with all that is. And this was a message from the angelic light forces. So, yeah, I mean, it's just understanding yourself allows you a greater understanding of all that is. Like that's really profound. I have
Yep.
to think.
Yep.
We could write a book on
I
that, right,
know,
Brett?
I know. These are some deep ones, but I mean, this is what I thought that like sometimes the messages are, I mean, not that they're all meaningful, but just some, I just thought that this was a good one to share with everyone. So, um, and have
And
we heard the angelic light force? There's so many different groups. I don't remember
yeah,
hearing.
we have heard from the angelic light forces, and actually, I that was one of the questions I asked all of the time, and I think we covered in this podcast. Remember, they gave the example of Indiana and Ohio because there are so many different angelic groups. So there's the archangels and the angelic light forces, and I think there's other angels we've heard from as well, which, we just know of angels. But and it is interesting. So I recently left Italy, and there's a lot of pictures or a lot of descriptions or depictions in Italian art of seraphim, which are angels with six wings. So again, it just goes to like all the different types of angels that there are. And I was just telling Brian before we started recording, like, a lot of this knowledge has been lost through time because look at all this Italian art from, 500 years ago. That stuff is real. Like there really are seraphim and there really are archangels, and it's in some ways it's like the ancient pyramids in Giza or the ancient stoneworks around the world, that there's a greater truth that we in our modern world don't realize today.
Yep, absolutely. So the I'll start the next topic was around inspiration, harmony, and the eternal self, which is topic 2 from February 10th, so pretty recent. Um, So they say, hello, we are near. We like and would like to comment on the phrase you studied just now. Lot inspiration to inspire. So this is something that, let me just stop here. You were something that came to you, or what was the background on this phrase?
I think I was actually practicing French on Duolingo, and it was La Inspiration in
Oh,
French,
excuse
which
me.
is which is uh, to inspire. And then I always get the signal of when I'm supposed to channel as I start to feel like this waving motion, like I'm rocking in a boat. And, then I know, okay, it's time to plug in. And so anyway, they interrupted my Duolingo session and went into this whole thing on inspiration, which is very interesting.
Right, right. So they go on to say this is a useful question to ponder. That inspiration for life should never be the routine monotony of acquiring money, food, love, good health, good grades, etc. Inspiration draws you to the highest, best path. You can see this displayed in your talented artists. The inspiration directs them in a new direction, creating new and marvelous paintings or a hit song to be danced to by uh, the multitude. So that's interesting. I know we've read a lot of biographies about different artists and different famous artists that have created different the music or art or whatever. And yeah, really they all seem very connected, right, to their spiritual side, and that's a common thread that we've discussed in the past, right, Maureen?
Well, I'm going to go even bolder, and I'm just going to say that all art, all music, all of these great works, whether it's a great scientific invention or a great book, guess what? It doesn't, it's a co-creation with the divine. And if you look at, I've looked at stories with regards to Edison and Dolly and all of these people that we admire, they all are connecting to higher forces to pull this information in.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many examples of this, but it's just another verification of that, essentially.
Yeah, so I'll continue. They say the inspiration formed the basis for many important developments within your present society. Look closely at the inspiration, which is French for inspiration, in your own particular as for your own particular life reigns present. Objectification is the greater glory of the one. A higher goal should never be sought. Brian's goal is his inspiration, the love and light of those who surround him, living in peaceful harmony, worthy attributes to their personal selves. Um, then they go on to say, we correct previous misinformation. The light that dwells within can only be magnified by the greater glory of your own personal inspiration in achieving its greatest magnitude. So that's where they ended on inspiration. So bravo, brother. Your inspiration is comes from the people who surround you, living in peaceful harmony. That's beautiful.
Yeah, well, as we talked, yeah, I think was it recently, it's like you create your own, you create your own, what am I trying to say?
Reality.
Reality, yeah. So based on, what you create is the way you're positioning things is the way things occur in your life. So that's my goal anyway. But yeah, so this happens a lot. Like they switch phones and someone else comes in. We retire as another comes forward. We come forward as the other party. We are delighted to be able to speak easily as our previous messages through this channel have been heard and easily communicated. We welcome those who can hear these messages. Know that our wish is for you to know that you are always surrounded by loving light beings. We are only one call away from assisting with your daily lives. We mentioned that you always ask for help. As a reminder that intrepid conditions of this present planet have magnified the mercurial natures of lower energetic beings. These mercurial natures stir many fears and disrupt patterns of previous harmonic convergence. It is wise to rise above such a deluge, a torrent of negative vibes. Um, and he says, yeah, I guess you were visioning walking out of a church if the preacher wants to give a fire and brimstone sermon. So let me pause there. But I know we both trying to avoid any of those situations of negativity and in the news and so forth. But anything you want to add on your vision there or anything else?
Yeah, no, I just saw, I when we grew up, we went to a Catholic church, and it wasn't often, but maybe about once a year, we'd get the fire and brimstone sermon. And it was so frightening to me as a child, like really, really scary. And I don't know, you probably don't, I never probably told you this, Brian, but one time our cousin Paula was visiting us, and the preacher just depicted this horrible scene, and I was terrified. And she was not, she was a little girl, and she said, I don't believe in that. And I was like, what? We have to believe our elders. And she's like, no, I don't believe in that. God is a loving God. I don't believe in that. So she couldn't have been more than 10. Like, it was like mind blowing to me. Like, of course you respect your elders, the priest who's giving the sermon. And she's like, no, that's a bunch of crap. So, God bless cousin Paula.
That's great at such a young age to have that understanding that and know what resonates with you and not listen to, as you said, an elder, a person in authority, and so that's great.
And that was a significant moment in my life because honestly, like, and I was very young at the time, but I just started to like question, you know, I started to question the Catholic Church, and I was like, whoa, what? And because I never questioned it before. It was just like a given. And so yeah, that was a really, but yeah, I vividly remember that. So yeah, just walk away from those those negative scenes, those negative vibes. And they talked to me specifically once. A lot of times I'll go to a hotel gym and they'll have it on the news, and they were like, Maureen, do not allow that to occur. And so, Brian, I have to tell you, I'm very proud of myself. I will call down to the front desk and I will say to them, come change this channel. If I'm the only one in the gym, come change this channel. I don't want to see the news. So because we don't realize how toxic that stuff is.
Yeah, right. And um I know, and I've told you that yeah, I know a lot of people that are just watching the news hours and hours a day, and that's not, so I totally try and avoid that as well. So, but
Yeah.
once you go on, because they were talking, I think about something going on with you.
They said the key always is within the own eternal self. Right now, the disruption of the external forces has caused a wobble in your centrifugal balance. We attempt to create a repair which will provide you with the most satisfied outcome. Pay no attention to the external. The internal is all that matters. So this has been one of the absolute blessings. Brian and I have been working on the preface for Love from Above, Volume 1, which will be out later this year. And this has been one of the absolute blessings of these channelings is, Brian, we get work done all the time. I don't know what caused this disruption to the that wobbled my centrifugal balance, but I didn't even aware that there was a wobble, but you know, it's taken care of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a nice thing. I know. It's interesting that no, I don't, the same for me. Like, is it like an interaction with a negative um entity or like what causes this? I'd be interested in, I guess I shouldn't worry about that, but I'm the same with you. I was wondering what caused that, and um
Who the heck knows? I mean, this was last week in Italy. I was loving life. So, to me, everything in life is going great, and I'm grateful, and I'm happy, and I'm content, and I'm bliss, and yeah. So, who knows? But I'm really grateful because honestly, Brian, when you look at the whole work of the channelings, which is what's going to be volume one, is just the unabridged channelings. You can pick what's important to you or skip what's not. And it's amazing how many times we've been worked on.
yeah, no, I know, and we've been invited into all sorts of uh places so that who knows if we've talked about that in the past too. So yeah, it's been very
Yeah,
interesting.
and I think it's a big deal. Brian's been inducted into the Assyrian Brotherhood. So, we don't really know what that means, but I mean, bravo, Brian. You're in the Assyrian Brotherhood.
This is horrible. I shouldn't even say this one, but anyway, it reminds me of Bill Murray in Caddyshack. There's a scene, but if you know, you know, I won't go off track on that one. But so the last one was topic three is around reflections on the law of one. Before we get into it, why don't you give some background on the law of one? I think you have, I know it was channelings from what was it, the 80s, Maureen?
Yeah. So this is a spiritual journey that one of the first journeys that we did together after our Dr. Joe Dispenza workshop is the Law of One is a series of channelings. It took us like I think almost a year to go through them, but they're free on YouTube. They're free on the internet. It's totally free, which is what I think all of this material that comes from source, it should be free, but that's my own personal opinion. But anyway, it was three people at the University of Michigan in the early 80s. There was the scribe, the questioner, and the person who channeled. And it took all three of them to work together, which I think about with Brian and I, because it really takes Brian and I bring very different skills to this project that we have formed together. But it couldn't work with just me, it couldn't work with just Brian. It really takes the union of us coming together. And they channeled this being called Ra, and Ra, this is one of the things that it's called the law of one, and like the true laws of the universe.
Right. Yeah, I think it's 106 conversations they had. But anyway, so if you're interested, I'll look it up. It's sort of um sometimes it's easier to read like the interpretation of it because it's sort of sometimes hard to understand their meaning with their terminology. But anyway, there's a lot to unpack there, but it's a lot of good information. So anyway, this is about that law of one. It says we're always present, have no fear. We come now through this vessel to speak on many occasions where the light source allows the one creator to shine fully through. We are now utilizing this vessel. We have come before, but on rare occasions, now we subsume our natural selves to utilize this vessel for our magnificent beings are as large as one of your mountains. So think about that. We come forth to speak on the sanctity and the truth of the law of one. You have received teachings on this indisputable law in many forms in the past. We shall concisely unite these teachings to a few simple phrases. There is only the one that is all. That is forever enduring and long lasting. Um, so let me stop there. So I guess they're summarizing the law of one into a key few things. What are your thoughts on this, the first?
Well, also, I have to tell you, this is apparently my life's purpose. So I had probably, I live with mystical events, and my biggest mystical event I've ever experienced was in the Sahara Desert, 2014. And I was told in the Sahara Desert, in this amazing vision that I received, and I was up all night with divine beings, that my purpose is to live, to teach, to understand the law of one. And how they explained to me is that there is only one, there's only the source. And they gave the example of the Olympics. So they said the Olympics is one event, but how it's portrayed in China is very different from how it's portrayed in Cuba versus the United States versus France, but it's one event. And the same thing with regards to all the religions in the world. It's all based on one pure source. So, yeah, the law of one, Brian. This is my life purpose.
Well, that's a good purpose to have. I love it. So I'd like to, then they go on and explain a little bit more, and they say the diffusion of separate selves is but an illusion, like a magic trick or a mirror in a funhouse that disperses the light so you can see multiple representations of your individual self. The same is true for the one that exists in all. You know this to be true, but should you truly understand the depth of this message, there would be no fear, worry, or concern because nothing exists outside of the one. That illusions you dabble with are photocentric illusions that can disappear within an instant with a corrective thought. So let me pause there. There's a lot to unpack there, but essentially, if you want to summarize this, that is, if then you shouldn't have any fear or worry because nothing exists outside of the one. And instead of worry about the illusions of our photocentric culture, is what I would take from that.
Yeah, and it goes along with the earlier message that we got that we talked about today is, there is only the one, and everything else is an illusion. And we've gotten a lot of messages referring to this like holographic reality that we live in, that this is, I guess this is really a matrix, and that's why with the change of one corrective thought, we can change anything instantly, which is mind-blowing. But I believe it to be true, and I think you do too, Brian.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah, and they go on to say it's really important for us now to become, they say, we're soon approaching this time when this manifestation will quicken. That's why it's imperative to monitor and observe the thoughts emanating from your brain, the emotions emanating from your heart, and the sensations emanating from your gut. So it's like now is the time, if you haven't started paying attention to what you're putting out into the universe, like we're coming up to the deadline now. Like you really need to get it in shape because we're coming to a time where manifestation will quicken and you don't want to manifest, whatever you fear coming true, right?
Yeah. But it's exciting though. Think about that. You think of something and you can manifest it very quickly. So, I mean, there's a positive side that to that if you are, have positive thoughts and so forth. But yeah, we've heard this a lot too, that everything is, quickening and everything's moving more rapidly. So, this is a consistent message we've heard in books and in channelings, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so the moment is now to to really pay attention to those thoughts and Yeah. And again, I talked about this, I think, in the last podcast, because I got this message again about the one, the law of one, that there's only the one creator. And so that if you really think about that, and that you are part of the one creator, there's nothing else. So that everyone that you meet is a reflection of that one creator. So that's what they're talking about with this funhouse mirror. It's like everything is a reflection of the one, which again is just mind blowing, but I think it is the ultimate truth of reality. And I think what's going to happen is these funhouse mirrors are going to come crashing down and we're going to be able to see the truth of all that is. Or that's my prayer.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's going to happen. That's what I think as well. So why don't you give a preview for what we're going to be talking about on the next week's podcast?
Okay, hold on, people. We've heard from angels, we've heard from the Palladians, we've heard from the Arcturians, we've heard from Thoth, the Egyptian god. We've heard from Jesus this week. Oh, Brian, this is another one where Brian listens to the recording and it's just me just crying because I can't believe it. So that's going to be messages about the teachings of Jesus and a message from Jesus himself. Brian, what did you think about when you listened to that?
Yeah, nothing surprises me anymore, So I thought it was great, but
Surprised me. It surprised me. It really did. So, yeah, and it's a message that you could really see Jesus teaching. I mean, it's very much in line with his teachings that are recorded in the Bible. And so, yeah, we'll be bringing that to you next week.
all right. Thanks, everyone.